I've just started volume 16 of my comic diary. I've been keeping these diaries for just over 10 years now, and I thought the 10th anniversary was a good moment to share some of the pages and tell you a little bit about how I do it. I've got them all on the shelf here. I'll just pick one at random to show you. I've got a little system now for showing the dates of each one. So this one is August 22 to March 23. I like to make covers for them so they all look a little bit different. It just makes them feel a bit more special. So having a look back through this one, all sorts of things going on. But before I show you some of the pages, I'm just going to show you what I use to make it. It's very, very simple. It's my Pentel twist erase. People often ask me how I do it. Do I plan it all in advance? The answer is no, because I know I'm doing it in pencil. It makes it a lot easier just to jump straight on the page because there's a rubber on the end, so I can change things easily enough. And in the end, I think the more spontaneously you do it, the better it comes out. It feels fresher and truer to the actual event. So I use my pencil, and then I've got a little tin. It's an art graph watercolour graphite. I use that with a water brush to add a little bit of tone and tint. And then the other thing I use is my magic pencil that does all the colours. So I don't always use that, but sometimes if something's a little bit special, I'll put that in as well. So looking back through these diaries, one of the things that comes up a lot is special days out to interesting places. Sometimes I decide to do a fancy border. For example, this page where I had a day trip to Oxford and I went to a meadow full of snake's head fritillaries, so I put a border of those all around it. Then I had a day out in Sussex looking for fungus, and I decided to make the border of that this particular type of fungus that we were searching. There was also a lovely day in Wales where I went to a Mari Lloyd celebration, and there was toast hanging from the trees and there was music and all sorts of horses' skulls dressed up with ribbons. It was quite an extraordinary event. I've even done a gatefold when I went to Inisheer, which is an island off the west coast of Ireland, and there was a rusty old shipwreck and I didn't feel a double page spread was enough, so I opened that one right out. I went with my family to see the band Pulp play in Sheffield, and at one point during the concert there was a lot of orange confetti came down from the ceiling, so I saved some of that and stuck it in. One of the interesting things about having kept the diary for so long, because 10 years is a long time, I had no idea when I started I'd still be doing it now. You can see all sorts of threads going through your life. You can see things that you might have started and given up on, or things that you might have started and got better at. So one of the things that's become very important to me is playing the fiddle, and I started from scratch, playing by ear. I just knew absolutely nothing about it. I was terribly nervous for a long time, and if I was playing with anybody else I would just almost freeze with terror. I have finally managed to just about get over that, and I can see all the progress of that in the diaries, and that actually inspired my most recent picture book, Be Bold Bob, which is about an elephant who wants to sing and he gets terribly nervous if anyone's listening. So that's really me with my fiddle. So in the diaries I can see where I got some tips on playing better. I can see where I plucked up the courage to go and join sessions in different places around the country. I had a bit of a setback in Ireland where I got laughed at by some donkeys. And then I went to a wonderful fiddle festival, Blazon in Bewley in Scotland, and that was where I actually managed to perform in front of a crowd for the very first time, and it's all in the diary. The other thing that's a little bit fiddle related is I had this crazy idea I was going to make my own fiddle, so I enrolled in a course at Merton College. I loved it, but sadly I had absolutely no aptitude for it. It involved a lot of measuring. I wasn't any good at it at all, and I've decided to give that up. There's also some chance encounters, because that's what makes life interesting. Here's one at London Zoo. And there's quite a lot about my work, so I can see the development of ideas for picture books. I can see scenes like this one where I'm just really enjoying a rainy day and the peace and quiet of having a full, solid day of work at my desk. There's also quite a few entries recording school visits. This is something I do quite a lot of and I love it, but as I'm getting older, I do find it very tiring, especially the early starts. But it's nice to see these entries in my diary which remind me how rewarding it can be as well. There's also records of all sorts of interesting work projects I've done that are not picture books. I do various community art projects and collaborations, and it's always nice to have new temporary colleagues to work with. There's also sadder things to contemplate. January this year was particularly tough, and I got a bit of comfort from recording in my diary that sense of pushing a great big boulder up a hill. There's also moments in the diary when I'm just reflecting on what's going on in the world, feeling a little bit helpless about it sometimes. And then sometimes taking a tiny bit of action and maybe going on a march or something like that. Well, I hope that's given you some inspiration to maybe start a comic diary of your own. I've got a few tips to give you if that's what you're planning to do. I think my number one tip is don't give up. The first year I did it, I did stop. I got about 3 months behind. I thought, that's it. And then something happened that was really just quite funny, and I thought that would make a good page in my diary. So I got started again, and it didn't matter. So don't let that put you off. You don't have to do it every single day. The other tip is if it's a very boring day, make the most of that. Celebrate those ordinary routine things because they are actually just as interesting to look back on. I know that sounds a bit strange, but it's true. Hourly Comics Day, which is the 1st of February every year, is where people who do diary comics tend to do something that records every single hour of the day. And when I look back, those are the most interesting ones because it forces you to record those things that seem very mundane at the time, but if you look back years later, you'll treasure those moments. I suppose the other thing that's worth mentioning is it's for you. So don't feel under any pressure to share it or put it online. You don't need to. And don't worry about the format. That can just keep changing. Sometimes you might want to do just one panel. Occasionally, the record number I've done for one single day is 6 pages, believe it or not, and that was because something very difficult was happening, and I drew it out because that really helped me process what was actually a little bit traumatic. So it's a bit like having a therapist as well, and can be very helpful in that way. So good luck if you want to start your own comic diary. I'm going to put a link in the caption to my online comics class, which has quite a lot about diaries in, so if you fancy joining that, check out the caption.